Karen called cops on my car. I'm an FBI agent. She kicked my side mirror off before I even made it inside the house. I'd parked for 20 seconds, barely had time to kill the engine when she stormed across her lawn, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, and a fury that didn't match the silence of this tidy little cul-de-sac. "You can't park that here," she shrieked. "This is a compliance zone." I didn't argue, just stepped out, hands relaxed, keeping my voice even. "It's a public road, ma'am." Her lips curled. "You're not registered. That car has no residential tag. I'm calling the police." She did. And 5 minutes later, two cruisers pulled up to investigate the suspicious vehicle in her neighborhood. Only this time, the suspicious vehicle belonged to a man who'd taken down cartel cells, wiretapped foreign operatives, and testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Because I'm not just some random guy with out-of-state tags. I'm a federal agent, and Karen had just called the cops on the FBI. I moved to Maple Hollow 3 months ago, a little corner of clean sidewalks, porch swings, and white fences just outside Quantico. I needed a slower life after 20 years in the bureau. Slower, but not silent. My name's Nate Bishop. I was a field agent for over a decade. Counterintelligence, cybercrime. I've wiretapped Russian operatives, sat across from domestic terrorists, and carried briefcases through back doors of embassies in cities you've never heard of. Now I train agents. I still carry a badge, still work cases. But I wanted a home where I didn't have to triple-check my mirrors or decode every conversation at the grocery store. So I bought a small 2-story brick place on Maple Crescent. It was quiet until Karen. Karen lived 2 houses down. At first, I thought she was just eccentric, always outside with a clipboard, flagging delivery trucks for wrong curb alignment, telling the mailman to retrain his approach vector, shouting at landscapers for leaf blower violations. I waved once. She glared like I was a threat to democracy. Then came the flyers, bright orange ones, taped to garage doors and windshields. Maple Hollow Community Guidelines. To maintain our neighborhood's property values, please comply with new aesthetic protocols effective immediately. Underneath were violations ranging from lack of shrub symmetry, unapproved porch flagpole angle, vehicle style incompatible with suburban cohesion. At the bottom, a logo. Mannequinage, na R.A.A. Maple Hollow Residential Authority. Karen Ann Doyle, Director, accept. There's no official HOA here. That was the first red flag. The second, people were paying her. Miss Turner, my neighbor across the street, whispered it to me one night while walking her dog. I gave her $50 last month for a decorative lawn fine. Thought it was real. She had forms and everything. I asked to see the forms. They were printed in Comic Sans. I started keeping notes. At first, just out of curiosity, then out of concern, because Karen wasn't just handing out flyers. She was issuing warnings, threatening liens, recording neighbors with her phone, and filing reports to a group that didn't exist. One man, a veteran named Carl, told me she'd cited him 3 times for parking an unauthorized tactical vehicle on his driveway. It was his pickup truck, the same one he used to bring meals to the local senior center. I reported it through Neighborhood Watch. They shrugged. "We can't stop her. There's no actual HOA to dissolve." That's when I knew I had to step in. Not as a neighbor, as an agent. The night before, she kicked my mirror off. I'd parked my bureau-issued SUV outside instead of in the garage. It was clean, no plates, government registered. I came back from a run and saw her standing next to it, filming. "You can't keep parking this thing here." She said, "It's intimidating." I said nothing. I don't intimidate. I investigate. I watched her snap a photo of the rear license plate. "Who do you work for?" she demanded. "Office of Personnel Management," I said calmly. Not a lie, just not the whole truth. "Sounds fake," she snapped. "You're being reported. Next morning, side mirror kicked clean off. Tire slashed, flyer nailed to my mailbox. Final warning, code violation, 12.3, suspicious government-affiliated presence." She signed it herself. I didn't call the cops. She did. 2 squad cars pulled up at 10:04 a.m. I greeted them with coffee, credentials, and body cam footage I'd captured on my private driveway camera. They were polite, confused. One recognized my face from a Justice Department training. "Sir," he said, eyes wide. "You're—" I nodded. "FBI, active clearance, badges in the bag." They looked at Karen. She was still yelling. "She's impersonating federal enforcement." I said, "Min, she just committed property damage on a government vehicle." Karen froze. "No, no, this is my neighborhood. You're the one who doesn't belong here." I turned to the officers. "Mind if we check her records?" What we found next opened the whole can of worms. Once the local officers verified my badge and credentials, they asked if I wanted to press charges. I said not yet, because while Karen had vandalized my car and made false reports, I had a gut feeling this ran deeper than petty harassment. So I asked the officers if they'd mind running a few names for me, specifically the Maple Hollow Residential Authority and its listed director, Karen Ann Doyle. 10 minutes later, I got the first red flag. The authority had no state or county registration, no incorporation filings, no tax ID, no legal status. But that didn't stop Karen from collecting dues. We found 3 separate Venmo accounts associated with the initials MHRA. One of them linked directly to Karen's email. Another one linked to a PayPal account titled Neighborhood Upkeep Trust. Total funds moved over the last 9 months, $48,117. Every payment memo read Violation 3A payment. Driveway color correction. Holiday decor overage fine. I printed the list. It was 5 pages long. I spent the rest of that afternoon walking door to door, quietly, no badge, no jacket, just neighbor to neighbor, clipboard in hand. I asked simple questions. Did you ever receive a violation letter? Did you pay anything to the MHRA? Did Karen ever threaten a lien or compliance action? Within 2 hours, I had 12 affidavits. People told me she threatened to have their cars towed, warned them she had county connections, fined one mother $100 for letting her kids use sidewalk chalk, told one elderly man he was in violation for a non-regulation mailbox knob. None of it was real, but the shame was, most of them didn't tell anyone. They thought maybe they were wrong. Maybe they'd missed something in the fine print when they bought their homes. That's what predators like Karen count on. Doubt, silence, polite compliance. That night, I wrote up a preliminary report for the Bureau's Public Corruption Task Force. Not because I needed federal support, but because if she was running this scam here, she may have done it before. The search turned up more than I expected. Karen Ann Doyle had lived in 5 states over the past 12 years. In 3 of those neighborhoods, public posts hinted at similar behavior. In Ohio, she formed the Heritage Hills Harmony Council, lasted 8 months before dissolving amid legal complaints. In Nevada, she was sued for fraudulent property enforcement and elder coercion. The case was settled quietly. In Arizona, a town newsletter reported on a woman who went door to door citing people for holiday light saturation. The woman was never named. The methods were identical. Karen wasn't a first-time offender. She was a serial authority impersonator. The next morning, I called a neighborhood meeting. I reserved the community clubhouse under my name, printed out every known violation Karen had issued, and placed them on a table under a banner I made with a Sharpie fake rules. Real money. Let's talk. 25 people showed up. I opened with this: "You've been scammed. Not because you were foolish, but because the scam was built on something powerful: fear of standing out, fear of breaking rules that never existed." Then I showed them the list, the fake ordinances, the dollar amounts, the fact that Karen had no legal authority to demand a single cent. One woman cried, "A man swore." Someone in the back threw one of Karen's flyers into the trash and said, "I knew it." And then we took action. I formed the Maple Hollow Integrity Alliance. Our mission: educate neighbors on their rights, report unauthorized compliance threats, coordinate with local law enforcement, launch a formal civil complaint with the county. The sheriff's office launched a local investigation. The AG's office flagged her accounts, and the Bureau authorized me to compile a formal case package. Karen was being boxed in, and she knew it, because that evening she showed up at my door, clipboard in hand, flanked by two of her compliance officers, a teenager she'd bribed with coffee, and a guy from the gym who thought he was in a neighborhood militia. She handed me a document titled Final Order of Removal, Agent Nate Bishop, and said, with no irony, "Your presence is destabilizing the cohesion of this community. You have 48 hours to vacate." I smiled, reached into my back pocket, pulled out my own form. E.S. Federal Subpoena. Financial Records Request and Fraud Allegation. Her face dropped. Then I said, loud enough for the neighbors watching Karen, "I don't answer to clipboards. I answer to the Constitution." Karen froze when I handed her the subpoena. For the first time, her carefully curated persona, a smug blend of authority and suburbia, cracked like cheap laminate. "You can't just investigate me," she stammered, voice rising. "This is harassment." "No, ma'am," I replied calmly. "This is federal oversight." Her fake compliance officers looked like they'd been handed live grenades. One muttered something about needing to call his mom. The other turned and speed-walked off before I even said a word. Karen stood there a moment longer, gripping her clipboard like it could shield her from reality. Then she hissed, "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Oh," I said, meeting her eyes. "I do, but I don't think you do." The next 48 hours moved fast, with evidence of wire fraud, impersonation of a public official, and the collection of illegal fines. I escalated the case to the Bureau's Cyber and Financial Crimes Division. Meanwhile, the local sheriff's office issued a temporary cease and desist against Karen, prohibiting her from distributing any material labeled Maple Hollow Residential Authority, demanding money from residents, communicating fines or violations through physical or digital means. A printed copy of the order was duct taped to her front door. But the real shock came when we subpoenaed her digital communications, emails, payment platforms, messaging apps. Karen had created a private Discord server called Civic Order Uprising. Inside were dozens of messages revealing her strategy. Start with aesthetics, they're harder to argue. Older homeowners give in quicker if you say, community standard. If someone resists, isolate them with neighbor reports. She even had a spreadsheet labeled compliant versus problematic. My name was bolded in red, but she hadn't just been acting alone. The server had 9 admins. Cross-referencing IP addresses and usernames led to a small network of people across multiple states copying her model, tweaking it, and running similar schemes. It wasn't just Karen anymore. She was the center node in a growing network of fake HOAs and pseudo-authority scams. So we expanded the investigation, created a codename operation, Laminated Justice. While the Bureau worked behind the scenes, I helped coordinate a town hall event, this time backed by the Sheriff's Department, the county clerk, and the state attorney general's office. We packed the high school auditorium. Karen was invited. She didn't show, but we brought her words with us. On a projector, we displayed her server logs, her digital threats, her fine lists, her private comments about neighbors, including Miss Turner, whom she called a weak target. When I showed the slide titled, "Push Them to Sell," the crowd went silent. That was her endgame all along. Issue enough fines, instill enough fear, drive people out, flip the property to buyers with the right vision. I stepped up to the mic, wore jeans, no blazer, just a shirt and my badge. And I said Karen made one mistake that none of her codes, notices, or clipboards could cover. She forgot this was a community before it was a street, and communities don't belong to fake boards. They belong to people, to neighbors, and when one of us stands up, we all do. The crowd rose to their feet. Miss Turner wept. Carl raised his cane in the air. Kids clapped. That moment, that was justice. By week's end, Karen was served a multi-count federal indictment, wire fraud, mail fraud, impersonation of a federal official, illegal collection of funds, harassment, coercion of vulnerable persons. She was arrested quietly. No yelling, no clipboard, just a pair of cuffs and a closed front door. As she was escorted to the cruiser, someone across the street shouted, "Hey Karen, where's your citation now?" The rest of us, we finally exhaled. Karen Doyle was convicted on all counts. In court, she tried to spin it, told the judge she was just trying to keep the neighborhood beautiful, that she filled a civic vacuum, that I had weaponized the federal government to silence a community leader. The prosecution didn't even need to raise its voice. They showed the receipts, screenshots of her Discord group, payments logged to fake fines, video of her kicking my government vehicle, victims' testimonies, neighbors who cried when they realized they weren't alone. The jury came back in under 3 hours guilty. Her sentence, 4 years. Restitution to be paid to every single resident who'd handed her $1. But what mattered more than prison time was what happened after. We passed a neighborhood integrity resolution crafted with the help of the state AG, making it illegal for any resident group to issue fines, threats, or notices without county oversight and proper registration. We hosted workshops how to spot fake authority. Your rights as a homeowner, don't let the fonts fool you. We installed a public civic board at the park where people could post only with verified approval from the sheriff's office. And I kept going door to door. Not as an agent, as a neighbor. Carl kept his truck. Miss Turner planted wildflowers, 12 different kinds, and the chalk drawings from the kids on the sidewalks. They stayed, every color of them. No more warnings, no more laminated threats, just art and laughter. I gave a TED-style talk in D.C. a few months later. Title authority isn't a font. In the crowd were HOA reform groups, local government officials, even housing advocates. I told them what I told Karen that day. The first question you should ask anyone who hands you a rule is who gave them the right to enforce it. Because fear is free, but justice is earned. We helped launch a national database, Civic Shield, a platform where homeowners can check whether an HOA is legally registered, whether a fine is enforceable, how to report fraudulent civic claims. Karen's case, it became case file Nasho as a one. People started sharing their own stories online. A single mom in Kansas fined $200 for dandelions. A veteran in Idaho cited for military paraphernalia. A grandmother in Texas shamed for her wind chimes. All fake, all fear-driven. But now they knew better. Because if Karen's reign taught us anything, it's that laminated paper can't outlast community. We printed new signs for Maple Hollow. This neighborhood belongs to neighbors, not clipboards. Underneath, in smaller letters, verified by the Department of Justice. I still drive the same SUV, still wear the same badge. But when kids in the neighborhood ride their bikes past me now, they don't see a suspicious vehicle. They see the guy who shut Karen down. Call to action. If someone demands obedience, ask who authorized them. If someone hands you a citation, ask for the statute. And if someone threatens you in the name of order, tell them justice doesn't wear a polo. It wears truth. Stand up. Ask questions. Help your neighbors do the same. Because fear only grows in silence. And when one person speaks, the whole block listens.